So hi and welcome to another episode of If It's in the Mind, It Can Be Managed, the Mind Management Mentors podcast. I'm your host, Cuddy Cudworth, the UK's leading mind management coach. Now, Kim, that is self-titled. That's not actually a thing, just as an FYI. Now, we briefly know each other, Kim. We spoke for about 2 minutes before the podcast. I am an acquaintance with one of your friends. That's how we've been introduced. I always think that setup's fair. I'm not going to go into any further details. Kim, what do you do? Who are you? Where are you from? Tell me your life story.
Hi, my name's Kim Patterson. I'm from Blackpool. I am a Reiki master practitioner for Uzui and Tibetan Reiki. I'm also a practitioner in Angelic Reiki. I do tarot and psychic readings, but I also have a diploma in color therapy.
Love that. Now, you said Angelic Reiki.
Yes.
You also said Tibetan.
Yeah.
And what was the other one?
Uzui. So
Uzui.
Uzui. U-S-U-I. Yeah, that's the original form. Traditional Reiki was actually created, inspired, if you like, by Dr. Mikao Uzui in the 1920s. That's the original modality. And then it branched off as it was taught across the world. It differed slightly in Tibet. So the only difference for the client is there's a different symbol that we use once you get to master level, which increases the intensity of the energy that we channel into you. So we're channeling energy from the environment through ourselves into the client for the client's body to divert it to where it's needed. Angelic Reiki is very, very different. And just quickly, while I remember, you don't need to have any particular beliefs. You don't need to be of any specific religion or belief system for these to work. It's essentially a method of transferring energy. But Angelic Reiki is very different. So whereas for traditional Reiki, the client lies fully clothed on a treatment table, and the practitioner will place their hands on or near the energy centers in the body, the chakras, work their way down using the symbols to increase the energy that's being given to the client for the client to heal. Angelic Reiki, again, the client's lying fully clothed on a treatment table, but the practitioner just keeps their hands on the heart and solar plexus chakras, just over the chest and by the ribs. And you're actually taught to channel angelic energy. Essentially, even if you don't believe in angels, it's just a higher level of energy that you're tuning into to enhance the healing that the recipient gets.
When we're talking angelic, are we talking their own angels or the angels that are around?
The angels that are around. So we're taught a special invocation, and anyone, if people do intentionally connect with angels, they generally have their favorites. Michael's mine. He's the protector. He's the one with the cloak and shield to protect and cut negative energy ties. However, all angels have their specialities, and some of them are better at healing certain issues than others. So it's really calling it. We do an invocation, and that should bring in the most appropriate ones at the time to help with whatever the client's dealing with, because no two healing sessions are the same, even with the same person. So it's whatever that person needs at the time.
So who would ideally? Because I find Reiki fascinating. Apologies if I've not said that right. And I know my wife's got a problem with the shoulder, and I'm like, oh, we've both got a tenseness in the shoulders at the moment.
Yeah.
But who ideally comes to see Kim Patterson in Blackpool?
Clients or angels?
Let's start with the clients. Kim, well done. I like that.
Um, to be honest, I mean the joy of Reiki is it's very safe. It doesn't matter what your health, mental, physical, or emotional is. It doesn't matter what medication you may be taking or what treatment you're having, whether you're pregnant or not. It's a very, very safe way of easing symptoms. So whether it's, like you say, back problems, joint problems,
What about bloating?
depression. Sorry?
What about bloating?
It can ease the pain of it, definitely. I
Make
mean,
you
we
fart, you mean?
yeah. um, and yeah, mental and emotional issues, and also if you're talking about flare-ups, any sort of inflammations of the system, a lot of it is to help ease pain, help bring that center of person and tranquility. And results may vary. So I've had very different reactions from people actually crying during Reiki,
Mm-hmm.
falling asleep, waking up like an Energizer bunny. It's the full gamut depending on what that person needs and what how their body treats the energy that it's given.
Yeah, absolutely. So I do find, and I'm a believer in energy transference or energy healing because of acupuncture.
Yes.
To be fair, I was very close-minded towards acupuncture, but I did have sciatica really bad years ago. And I remember going to see someone, and they went, "Yeah, no problem. We can sort this out." And I felt the energy shift in the points where the sciatica was, but the needle, which is so small and finite, was in the big toe, and I'd felt the energy release. So,
Wow.
I genuinely do understand chakras, and I'm very very deep into meditation and things like that.
Yeah.
So, understanding how energy flows through Tai Chi, through the meridians, and through the chakras, and how those blocks actually do manifest in those symptoms is fascinating to me. So,
Yeah.
and I'll speak about acupuncture when I had that release of like, oh my god, it was like the needle just went in. It's not a needle per se, but the hairline just went in, and I felt that expanding but sucking at the same time on the sciatica. I'm like, oh my god, that's actually worked. So that was fascinating for me,
Yeah.
and that again sent me on. I think everybody's always got a tipping point. So thank you very much for telling us what you do, Kim. May I ask, what was your tipping point to start going down what some people would say the woo woo or the alternative? I don't think it's as alternative, more probably a more original medicine, to be fair. I think alternative is what was brought in the 40s and the 50s with medication and things like that. What was your tipping point, Kim? Everybody has a story. What's yours?
Um, well, as I mentioned, I consider it a series of unfortunate events, really.
Right.
But it was, I think it was always in the offing for me. When I was very young, we were raised Church of England, but I also remember my dad used to talk to me a lot about Buddhist teachings. There was an
Mm,
awful lot about reincarnation, um, choosing the life that you incarnate into to learn the most lessons to clear your karma. So I'd sort of grown up with those. And my home life was quite interesting. My parents, bless them, had split up when I was 4, but continued to live together because of circumstances. They didn't have a support network per se, and my mum struggled a lot with various illnesses of various types. So I'd learned to pick up very early on atmospheres and
mm,
energy shifts and that kind of thing. And then my own health at 17 really started to take a massive hit. I had a bout of glandular fever, and then it was kind of a domino effect where I then developed IBS, and then I got depression, and by the age of sort of 21 I was having panic attacks. And my oldest sister had gone to learn Reiki, and she was talking to me about it, saying how amazing it could be. And she gave me a healing session, and it was incredible. It was like I had a vortex in my mouth and throat. It was just the most amazing feeling, purely by my sister putting her hands on my neck, which, you know, most of the time I would not appreciate somebody doing. And that just changed my world, to be honest. So that's when I started. At the time, I was living in Brighton as well. I'd moved to Brighton for 11 years.
Sorry about
And I had.
I've never been to Brighton, so I can't actually comment, to be fair. But I know I'm in Blackpool, and I know you're in Blackpool, so I just thought I'd throw it.
Yeah, it was honestly, it was a brilliant. It was fabulous for learning that kind of thing at the time. There were so many teachers available on various esoteric issues. And that's where I started doing my Reiki training, and I started doing my psychic development training. And I've just never looked back, really. It sort of it's honestly got me through some interesting times. And then when I moved back to Blackpool, that's when I got my Yuzui Masters and my Angelic Reiki practitioner. And it's one of those things, I'll be honest, it's always been a big part of my life, but I've quite often put it on the back burner. So when I had children and I was working full time, it was like, oh, I don't have time to do this. And I kept having the little voices in my head going, you should be doing this. You need to do this. Stop hiding it. Get on with it. This is what you're here for. So now that my children are a bit older and a bit more self-sufficient, yeah, it's honestly got me through some very dark times, and it's one of those things where I certainly don't want to force other people to try it, but equally I just want them to know that it's worth trying, depending on what they're dealing with.
So, what was the vortex feeling in the throat? Because that's clearly the throat chakra. Was there a block there? Had you lost your voice? Had you been told to be quiet, or was there something that was a release there?
I was always very, very bad at expressing my thoughts and feelings,
Yeah,
and I'd really grown up sort of feeling like I wasn't meant to take up space. I wasn't meant to make any noise. My feelings weren't valid. Um, and it was it was very much, the throat chakra really needed some work.
yeah,
And yeah, it's the only way I can describe it, but it was just stunning, and it's never left me. I was 22 at the time, and it just really changed my outlook on a lot of things.
yeah. I had a chakra balancing thing done a while ago, and guess which one of my chakras was wide open? The throat one. When you do not have any problems with your throat chakra, I'm like, no, no, I do not.
I love it.
I did think that was quite funny, but she did it live on a podcast as well, actually. And to be fair, I don't know how it was a great podcast. And for anyone watching this, go back and watch that podcast, because she did a chakra balancing live for me in the podcast. And she went in, she went, I'm just going to go into your chakras. I'm like, can you do it from where you are? Because I think she was Seattle or California, something that way. And she went, yeah, no, I can do it. She's fine. And she went straight in. And I felt on the podcast, and I didn't show this on the podcast, I actually started crying for about an hour after the podcast.
Oh, wow.
Seriously.
Yeah.
She went in, and I felt like someone had just opened up my soul and just gone straight into what was the problem.
Gosh.
And I was just absolutely blown away by it. And I've sent it to clients since. I'm like, you need to go speak to this lady. You need to go speak to you need your chakras balancing. You need your chakras balancing. So that's. I mean, it's funny that you said your dad talked to you about Buddhism and things like that. So I remember stories. My mum used to talk to me about things of. She was always that way inclined, that she felt like she was open and had conversations with spirit. She spoke about deja vu a lot.
Yeah.
She always spoke about, she's not dead. I'm not talking about the past because she lives in Fleetwood. So I'm off to see her on Sunday. So it's fine. But I don't think she's as open to it as she used to be fair.
Okay.
Yeah. Just thinking about my mum, seeing how much she's changed over the years. But yeah, there was always times when she said, "Yeah, last night," she goes, "I think someone's going to die," and we'd like, "But why?" And a Chinese man sat at the end of my bed last night, and the whole room lit up. And then 4 hours later, there'd be a phone call. Your uncle Robert's died, or something like that. She went, "I told you." She goes, "I knew someone was going to die." She goes, "I knew I'd been contacted."
Wow.
So I think I've always been quite open to these things.
Yeah.
For anyone who, not to their downfall, but to the ones that maybe are not as open minded, what would be the thing that they say, try it? Why would you say give it a go?
I love actually working with the people who don't really believe in it or are skeptical. Those are the ones that I like to try and work with the most, because ultimately, what have you got to lose? You if nothing else, get to relax for an hour, and if you don't believe anything's going to happen, you either get to lie there for an hour and just relax, or you get to be pleasantly surprised and hopefully benefit from a modality that does seem to help people regardless of their belief system. One of the best stories I've got about dealing with a skeptic was I'd offered 20-minute free sessions to some colleagues at work. And this gentleman had accepted, and so he was at his home elsewhere in the country, I was at my home, and I'd text him saying, "Right, okay, I'm starting, just try and relax, minimize any distractions. I'll text again to say when I've finished." And I just knew partway through the session that he'd got up and walked off. And I knew he had. So anyway, I just carried on sending the healing because he was still going to benefit from it anyway. Text him at the end of the 20 minutes and said, "Where did you go?" And he said, "What do you mean?" I said, "You disappeared partway through." He was like, "How did you know that?" He was like, "There was some noise outside the house. I went to see what was going on." I was like, "Well, I could feel it." I said, "I still sent you the healing. I hope you feel better for it, but I knew you'd gone." And that's my, for any skeptics, that's my go-to story of that bond is there, that energy link is there. So
Yeah.
I can still send it to people even if they're getting on around the day. Hopefully it doesn't make them drowsy if I'm doing that and they ask me to do it. But that energy transfer is there, and I've never experienced anyone not noticing something from it, even the people who don't believe in it.
Yeah. So with your, and I'm going to ask, do you do remote viewing as well then?
I don't tend to do remote viewing.
Because
I
it
will
kind of
do.
sounds very similar.
Well, I do the well, yeah, I see what you're saying. I do the distance healing and will pick up on the energy from the person. Um, but I don't do I won't try and read someone without their permission.
Yeah.
It's just that, like I say, I'll know if the link is broken. And what I do tend to get a lot when I'm healing people is I will get messages for them, or I will pick up on issues that they may be having, and I will say to them, "Do you want these messages, or would you rather not know?" Because I've even got friends who they're more than happy to have the Reiki, but they're not interested in the psychic side of things, and that's
Yeah.
that's completely fine. So then I just sort of keep it purely healing.
Yeah. And for anyone watching this, is like, well, what is remote viewing? Remote viewing is actually an old CIA technique. It's actually been released.
Yeah.
It was used an awful lot in the Cold War with Russian agents and the American agents. And Kim, I'm not fully versed in remote viewing, but it is the possibility to be able to transcend to a different area and to be able to see what's going on through other people's eyes. Um, and please correct me if I'm wrong.
No, that's it. Yeah. Yeah, they used to try and map out, shall we say, enemy
yeah,
layouts and government buildings and things, didn't they?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And that to me is absolutely amazing. There's so many things that goes on that maybe we are closed-minded to, which is what the mind management mentors is about. It is about solutions. Anyway, thanks for touching on Reiki and how you do that. However, what piqued my interest, Kim, when we had the conversation, and it's something I've never heard of,
Yeah.
and I was like, we'll have you as the expert and the authority on color therapy.
Yeah.
So explain to me what color therapy is.
Color therapy is based on the physics of the wavelengths of each color and how it affects the body. So we are taking in colors all the time through our clothing, through what we eat and drink, the decoration in our homes, soft furnishings, that kind of thing. And everybody, well, not everyone, most people have favorite colors and favorite foods. And what you will find is it's very easy for the body to become out of balance through the colors that we surround ourselves with or the colors that we're eating. So, for example, too much red. You can have too much red meat, too much salt, too much red in your clothing and your household. Then you'll find that you might be struggling with high blood pressure, increased aggression, short temper, inability to sleep properly, that kind of thing.
Hmm.
Conversely, anyone who's got too much purple in their clothing or their home environment, um, they can actually find themselves really struggling energy wise, struggling to concentrate, um, and almost sort of in a sedated state, because that essentially when I'm using the colour in Reiki, I use purple for calming people if they are anxious, um, and for reducing pain. So white is very, very popular in home
Really?
decor,
Yeah.
but if you have too much bright white in your home, it's putting your nervous system into a state of alert. And if you have too much of that for too long, you're going to have sleep disturbances, cognitive disturbances, because your nervous system just goes into overdrive.
Why does it go into overdrive for white then?
Well, bright white is all the colours at high intensity,
Oh, it is, yeah.
and it's just overloading your system.
Oh,
Your
right.
system's not getting chance to adjust.
Because I, and it's funny you said purple. I was just learning that purple's not a color that exists.
Oh,
It's not.
really?
It's not a color that we can see. Technically, it's green, but our eyes and our brain make the connection into it's purple. Purple's not a color that exists. It's something that only exists in the brain.
Oh, okay. Well, you've got like your ultraviolets that obviously we can't
Absolutely.
see. I know that. And then obviously like your infrareds, and those again can be present in some of the foods. So some of your processed foods are coming up to the ultraviolet range. Um, so again, it's one of those things where sometimes people can have too much of a beige diet, too much of your
Yeah.
chips and chicken without any mixed vegetables and that kind of thing. And again, it's that imbalance in what your system's taking in. So as well as each color relating to the energy centers, um, they also relate to certain systems or organs in the body. And because the wavelength is on the same frequency as those organs.
Hmm.
So sometimes, I mean, I've got a friend that I keep telling her she just wears pink and white all the time, and she's a very giving person. She's got a lot of white in her home, and then she's constantly exhausted. And it's like, well, you've got none of the blues, greens, and purples to balance that out. You're just giving out energy all the time. You need something cooling and soothing to take back into yourself. Um, but bless her, she's still doing it.
So I'm going to ask: is there any reason you have pink hair then?
Honestly, it keeps changing at the moment. It's just,
I love neon. I wear neons all the time. So I've got neon,
yeah.
yellow, and pink. That's me.
To be honest, I'll be completely honest with you. Pink was a colour I did not like for a very long time, and ironically, it was one of those things I had to say to my colour therapy tutor when we were doing, it's similar to sort of psychology or therapy training when you have to say to your tutor, here are my issues and that kind of thing, and here are the colours I don't like. And I'd always been a bit against pink for some reason, and she was like,
Black
oh,
and
when
grey. For me,
really?
for me, it's black and grey. I just
Right.
can't stomach black and grey.
Well, green's that very sort of it's very balancing for the body.
No,
Um,
grey.
oh, grey, sorry. Oh, yes. Well, no,
Yeah,
that's good because grey, it's good that you're not a fan of grey because grey's very depressing colour, to be
it is.
honest.
I just think if it's not neon, I don't want it.
Yeah, well, that's good. That's
No.
because you're so vibrant and you are so sort of energetically healthy that you're reflecting that in what you wear. But yeah, grey, if anyone wears too much grey, the chances are that they're actually depressed.
I can see it. To be fair, I'm not laughing at people wearing grey, but yeah, it's just such a monotonous color. Black, I've got a few things that are black, and I know it's a very slimming color, so I should probably wear it more, to be fair. But no, neons and blues have always been my. Never would been one for green, to be fair. Green's never been on. I've got a couple of green tops, and they just don't suit me. But I like the Incredible Hulk.
Oh, that's ironic.
My two favorite superheroes, Incredible Hulk and Superman. And I'm pointing because I've got a shelf full of Incredible Hulks and a shelf full of. You've got
Oh,
red blues and
brilliant. You
yeah,
see, I like Doctor Strange,
which would be blue.
but he goes into all the,
Yeah,
he goes into that side of life that people can't see and don't tend to believe it. And he didn't believe in it himself at first, and then
yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
So, who would somebody? How would somebody know they need color therapy? What's the train of thought that's going to pop up for someone to go? I need to go and see a color therapist.
I think if they're finding that they've got imbalances, if they know that they're not feeling well in some way, possibly keep getting headaches, they're constantly exhausted, they um, keep reacting to foods and that kind of thing. But if they go to the doctor and the doctor's saying, well, all your tests have come back fine, but you're still not feeling great after having these tests, then there's obviously something more energetic going on. And it's worth just looking around, look at what colours you wear, look at what colours you eat, look at what colour your home is. And if you are finding that you are literally eating, wearing, and living in the same colours, then the chances are you are going to have these imbalances that you need addressing. And it doesn't have to be a major change. You don't have to change your wardrobe and change your entire home decor. You could just check what kind of, just some cushions, maybe adding a few different coloured foods to what you already eat, maybe adding a scarf of a different colour to what you would normally wear, that kind of thing. It can be simple changes, but sometimes you need that objective opinion to say, right, okay, your entire house is white, you constantly wear grey, and your food is beige. We might need to introduce some cushions, a different coloured jacket, and maybe have some blueberries with your porridge. And that kind of thing. It's just suggestions of simple lifestyle changes that can really adjust the balance that you're exposing your body to.
Yeah. So, am I allowed to ask about ladies going through the menopause and what colors they should be focusing on?
Well, again, it's very individual. Everyone reacts differently. I think personally, I go for the brighter colours, um, because you really need those healthy vibration colours. It's too easy to go for things like mustard yellow or khaki and that kind of thing, but actually those are muddy shades. of those colours, and it's not giving your body the best vibration. The absolute best for balancing mind and body is yellow. But I know it's very, not everyone can either wear yellow or tolerate yellow. Orange is another fabulous colour. It's a very antidepressant colour.
Oh, I love
It's
it.
very warming and soothing, and can really help increase blood flow, but not in quite as an overpowering way as red can be.
Yeah.
So I'd go for yellows and oranges to help boost mood, balance body and mind, and give them that energy and self-confidence.
Do you remember using the buttercup test under your chin when you were a kid?
Yes,
And
yes,
that
I
was
do.
yellow.
It
Do you
was.
remember that test? It was like,
Yeah,
or not. I know it was a silly test, but it glowed up. The yellow
it
really on
did.
the throat shot. Yeah,
Yeah,
wow.
yeah.
The more yellows. I'm just going through my wardrobe now, thinking what I've got in yellow. I'm looking. I've got a rucksack which is yellow. I have a lot of neon lime, to be fair. And
Okay,
my favorite hoodie is yellow. It's a bright yellow. It's a neon yellow.
that's fabulous. That's really
Yeah,
good. Yeah,
it is. No, I love that. So, you are in Blackpool.
I am.
Absolutely. How do people, or who would you ideally love to speak to?
Um, I'm always a big one for talking to skeptics. I love that. I do love to sort of for me it's a really great test. It's like I appreciate it's not going to be for everyone, but equally I like to give people that opportunity to try it. But like I say, anyone who feels like they need that support, if they are feeling low, they're struggling with conditions that Western medicine is not necessarily managing to alleviate all of the symptoms. It's very much a complementary therapy. I don't discourage people from doing the Western medicine at all. If I'm feeling ill, I'll go to the doctor. Um, but
You'll be wearing
sometimes
yellow.
I'd be wearing yellow at the time, yeah, keeping balanced. Um, and if they just say the pain relief isn't quite managing it, say the treatment that they might be getting for, like you say, menopausal symptoms isn't quite taking the edge off, things like that. Anyone who feels like their conventional medicine is not working for them, this is a great way of adding to it to take off to alleviate the edge of the symptoms.
Yeah. And what's the biggest change you've seen with Reiki?
Um,
Are we talking people getting out of wheelchairs and walking under the supervision of Kim Patterson?
honestly, I think I'd have to say, really, it's me, if I'm honest, because when I was in my 20s and early 30s, I used to have panic attacks.
Hmm.
Particularly if I felt like I was going to be in the spotlight or if I was talking to strangers. Um, I would start being extremely anxious, which would then set off my IBS, and then it was a whole catch 22. And I'm not saying I'm going to be standing on stage at the Winter Gardens anytime soon, but I I am a very different person now, socially and just in general, and I really put that down to the Reiki. It's not been an overnight success, but it's the only thing that I can really credit for that. So it has changed my life personally.
Fantastic. It sounds. Do you know? I love it. When I have these conversations, I like to have perspective. I like to have options, and I think it's nice to have solutions for so many people these days as well. But there is such a broad spectrum of solutions these days.
Yeah.
And I know that people say, well, it's woo woo, but there's so much to do with vibrations, whether it's sound vibrations or I can understand the power of color vibrations because everything's on a vibrational state.
It is. I mean, I'm not going to profess to understand it at a physics level, but there is a degree of physics to it.
There's
And
quantum physics, to be fair.
yeah,
A lot of it's based in quantum physics,
yeah. And
which is
it's
highly intelligible.
extremely, that's why I can't quite get it.
No, Kim, the fact that you're talking about it and working with it would put you way above many other people who have the very minimal knowledge. But when you've got quantum scientists who are the 1% of the brains and the mind of the world and saying vibration is what we're all based on,
Yeah,
then maybe we do have to start looking at consciousness is a big thing for me.
yeah,
The emotional states, even the emotions that we saw. If let's talk vibrations for depression. If you are in a grey color and you are a depressed person, you're going to have a low vibrational state. It's proven within the brain waves that you will have a lower vibrational state, which is what puts you into a depressed state.
yeah,
Depression is an emotion. Depression is a state created by thought and beliefs. So whatever we think, we believe, and we create. So if we think I have depression, then you have an outcome of, well, I can't do something because I have. Whereas once we understand I was depressed, I'm no longer depressed, then guess what changes? Our vibrational state. And
yeah,
every one of our emotions has, I get very passionate about this, Kim, very, very passionate about this, especially when it comes to the emotions and the vibrations that we put out. And the lower vibrational emotions, such as guilt, hopelessness, and shame, keep us genuinely in a low vibrational state. And the power of courage is the tipping point.
yes,
Courage is the tipping point that puts you into the high vibrational state, which is love, which is happiness, which is grace, and gratitude. But one of the most strongest vibrational emotional states that we can have is authenticity.
yeah.
And if there's anything I've met in such a short amount of time, you're very authentic, Kim, which is a compliment.
Thank you.
Not a problem at all. Is there anything else you want to share with the world, according to Kim Patterson and the vibration of color?
Um, orange. Orange is the way forward.
Orange is the way
Yeah.
forward.
If you're down, if you're depressed, if you're upset, any negative emotion, orange.
I love it. I'm writing it down. Kim Patterson, this has been an absolute pleasure, if you don't mind my saying. And thank you very much to the person who introduced us, if you don't mind, and also telling me it was me a text message.
I will.
Um, I think if there's ever an episode that says if it's in the mind, it can be managed, is alternative the new wave, and it is Western medicine the old wave? That's a powerful question. But please remember, if it's in the mind, it can be managed. And as always, big love from Cuddy. And we'll see you on the next episode of If It's in the Mind, It Can Be Managed. Goodbye, Kim.
Bye.